Wetlands cover 30,105 kilometers squared of Uganda's total land area of 241,500 kilometers squared. With a coverage of 13% of the total land area, this could be depleted by year 2040 if concerted efforts to mitigate their degradation is not accelerated. According to a report by the Ministry of Water and Environment on the state of wetlands in Uganda, wetland cover has reduced from 37,346.3 square kilometers, that's 15%, in 1994 to 21,526.3 square kilometers, 8% as of 2022. In our EcoPlus program today, we bring you an interaction with the Executive Director of National Environment Management Authority, NEMA, Dr. Bailega Akankwasa, to tell us more on what wetlands are, their role, causes of degradation, and what needs to be done in conserving them.
Wetlands in Uganda and globally can be defined as areas which are seasonally or permanently flooded with water, with vegetation and plants and animal life that have adapted to that type of environment. Basically, that's a wetland. So, a wetland can be seasonal, it can be fully permanent waterlogged. These papyrus swamps you see, that's a sign of permanent waterlogging, because the papyrus plant has adapted to the permanent logging, the permanent presence of water. And that's why we must protect them, because we call them the lungs of the planet. Wetlands help us in so many ways. One is to filter the running water from impurities so that you can have access to clean water. The running water has to go through the sieve. The wetlands act as sieves for our water. But also because for them, when there is more rain, they hold the water and release it into the ground at a reduced pace. It helps us to store water. So when there is a dry season, we have water. But also it helps us to make rain fall, because when there is sunshine and the wetland has water, the water evaporates into the atmosphere. The vapor which goes into the atmosphere comes back as rain. So wetlands also give us rain. Most importantly, what people least talk about, wetlands are stores of huge deposits of carbon. So they absorb carbon emissions from your cars, the carbon you breathe out, they absorb them and keep them under what we call peat. When you dig into a wetland, you find dark soil. That darkness is actually a result of carbon. So if you open the wetlands, you are releasing this carbon back into the atmosphere and contributing to climate change. But wetlands are also homes for biodiversity. Fish we eat comes from wetlands. The birds, there are so many birds. We can have avitourism or birding tourism based on wetlands. We can get food, medicine, we can grow rice in wetlands, so we can get fish, we can get water. So wetlands have so many importances for ecological, social, and economic functions. But most importantly, the ecological functions of water filtration, groundwater recharge, carbon capture, and being habitats for biodiversity. We must protect them. They help us to control flooding. When there is more water, they hold the water as a sponge. If there are no wetlands, the water will continue moving and it will wash away your houses, our roads, our bridges, our factories, our buildings. They will all suffer from flooding. Yeah.
So you've talked about protecting them. But when you look around Uganda, most of the urban centers, wetlands are being encroached on. Don't you think you're weak in that area as a governing body?
Wetlands, like I said at the beginning, are supposed to be protected by all of us. But the immediate agency in charge of wetland management is the local government and urban authority, the wetland management department, Ministry of Water and Environment, and of course NEMA. But because of high population growth rates, there is stress on these wetlands. I can give you the statistics. In 1994, the country had 15.6% of its cover, land cover, as wetlands. 15.6% in 1994. In 2008, it reduced to 10, only 10.9%. In 2015, it reduced further to 8.9, only 8.9%. But we are seeing slight recovery. Our statistics for 2021 indicates that we have moved to 9.3% of wetland. So there is some wetland recovery as a result of a lot of efforts to restore the degraded wetlands, but also more rainfall, nature can recover back its own wetlands. So the weakness which is there is increase in criminality. People do backfilling of wetlands in the wee hours of the night, when enforcement teams are not working. It is impossible to place enforcement personnel on every inch of wetland in Uganda. It's not humanly possible. No country can afford that. Even if they gave us the entire Uganda police force and the entire UPDF to deploy on every square mile of wetland, still we would not cover all the wetlands, and it would not be feasible. So what's important is people to understand that wetlands play a significant role in their lives, in the development of the nation, so that they stop the habit of backfilling, especially at night. Where we have found them, we arrest them and prosecute them. We have also done operations. You saw Rubiji, we had an operation to chase away people. Just this weekend, we found the people degrading in Buroba. Their files are being processed for court. So our enforcement teams are on the ground, but they are not enough. What we need is really behavior change. What we need is behavior change for people to value environment. Because environment is not for NEMA at Ginger Road here, neither is it for government. When Katonga Bridge is washed away, everyone is inconvenienced. So everyone suffers from environment degradation. When there is flooding, when there is drought, animals die massively for lack of water. So we should not see environment like any other social service provided by government. It's very different, totally different. A school, government can build a school and give it to you. Government can make a road and give it to you. Government can make a hospital and give it to you. Government cannot manufacture environment and give it to you. Not at all. Government only mobilizes you, but it is you, the citizen. It is you and me to manage the environment, not to litter. Government is not going to be the one to cause you not to litter, not to throw away plastics on the road. It is you. Government is not the one going to do open burning of waste, which increases global warming and also cancerous fumes. It's you and me. It is not government that is backfilling wetlands. No. It is you and me. It is not government that is cutting down forests. It is you and me. So the solution is not only with the government. Of course, government has a responsibility to lead the way, because people give government responsibility to lead them. And that's why we have institutions like NEMA. And that's why we are laboring to educate the citizens, thanks to UBC for the platform, to invite the Wananchi to come and join us to save the environment. So, unlike other social services which government can produce and deliver, environment cannot be delivered by government alone. It's impossible. So people must stop looking for solutions on environment from government. The solution is with the people together with the government. And as government, as you know, in 2021, September, it was my second day in this office, we suspended further issuance of any permit for any activities in wetlands. Government took that bold and popular but bold decision to save wetlands from further degradation.
But we still see some activities ongoing.
Illegal activities.
The example of Katonga, rice growing in Katonga.
Those are past permitted activities. Past. Just the way we have roads and railways and dams, there are activities including factories and rice growing in Chibimba, Doho, for example, in eastern Uganda, Ruera. So we have rice schemes which were permitted before the ban. So those are there. But the government has since banned further permission of any such activities in wetlands to help protect them, not only for government, but for the entire nation.
Okay. Yeah. So of the wetlands we have in Uganda, which ones are Ramsar sites?
We have several Ramsar sites in Uganda. For example, Sango Bay area, we have Ramsar sites there. We have this Rutembe here. Mabamba Bay is a Ramsar site, but also Lake George is a Ramsar site, and several others, especially on Lake Edward and Lake George. So we have Ramsar sites on Lake Victoria, Lake George, and as well as.
What does it for a certain wetland or site to be
a Ramsar site?
Ramsar site?
To be a Ramsar site, a wetland must be of international importance. So Ramsar sites are wetlands of international importance. International meaning they are either habitats for migratory species, which migratory species are not owned by one country, and so it's an international thing. It may be a significant water body like Lake Victoria, which has value beyond Uganda, or Lake Albert, which has value beyond Uganda. It is a shared resource. Could be a source of water. River Nile, for example, is not only important for Uganda. So it could be a significant wetland for conservation of environment, which environment is not only benefiting Uganda, but benefits the entire world. Could be a habitat for a critical species. Like, for example, Mabamba Bay is a habitat for the shoebill. You've heard about the shoebill. It's an endangered bird which tourists look out for. Very many tourists come to Uganda to look for that bird called the shoebill stork and grey-crowned crane, the Uganda national bird. These are wetland birds, and so they are very threatened, they are rare, they are endangered. So wetlands which are homes for these birds become critical sites, and so they are important areas for conservation. But briefly, Ramsar are wetlands of international importance. Yeah.
So in addition to, as wonderful the wetland bit, what has been so much pressing on your side as a body?
As a body, the biggest problem of environment management, wetlands inclusive, is institutional capacity. The local governments and urban authorities who are supposed to be the daily custodians, because if there is an encroachment in Iguru, by the time NEMA reaches Iguru, the Iguru people will already know the encroachment. The RDC will already know. The DPC will already know. The COW will already know. The city environment officer will already know. So what we need is capacity at that level. Can we have district environment officers and enforcement teams with the capacity to respond? Because NEMA has staff, currently we are under restructuring. The government is going to increase our staffing, to increase our capacity. But before that, we have been 130 people. including drivers, including office messengers, including administrative officers, including accountants, everybody.
For the whole country?
For the whole country, 130. Now, this is less than the number of districts in Uganda, isn't it? So 100 people can't manage effectively even only Kampala. Just Kampala alone. Noise pollution alone. And factory inspections and pollution control alone. The 100 people, 100 staff of NEMA would not be enough if you deployed all of them in Kampala, including secretaries, including myself, including all of us. So you can see that it is not practically possible for NEMA with 130 staff to man environment even in Kampala alone. But it is worse at the district level, where you find a district with only the district environment officer, one person. And that one person has no budget, has no motorcycle or even a car to go and check on encroachment. So that's where the problem is. Institutional capacity for environment management must be enhanced. We must invest in environment. Environment is not going to conserve itself. But we must not wait for money to move. No. We can leverage existing resources. And that's why the president, we thank him, he issued a directive to all RDCs, cows, and DPCs, and DSOs, and district environment officers. If they find a wetland being encroached and you've done nothing, you have no job. Yes. Because you are in charge of these areas. Every district has a DPC with the police.
But there are those citizens who say this is our area. It is our land for our ancestors, so we have been here for hundreds of years.
Whether a wetland is owned by you or by government, it doesn't matter. Government must regulate its use. You can have a land title of land in a wetland. We have so many of them. That does not give you permission to actually destroy the wetland, even if it is on your land title. Government has a responsibility to regulate how you use that land. So you may have been born there as a fisherman, and now you want to put a factory or you want to put a building. That should not be allowed. If you've been using it sustainably, say for fisheries, say for fish farming, that is okay. You can continue using your land. But to convert it, to backfill it and make the wetland disappear, that's criminal and it should not happen unless you have permission of government to use that land, and the law already prescribes how you can use a wetland. You can use a wetland for sustainable activities like, extraction of clay, regulated sustainable extraction of clay, rice growing, for example, water harvesting, fish farming. These activities are listed in the law, but they are called regulated activities, meaning you require a permit from government before you do them. That's why when we suspended further permitting, you cannot now start those activities because there is a suspension. We want the wetlands to first breathe. They are under intense pressure. So we want them to first breathe. Yeah.
For those you evict out of the wetlands, do you just leave them? Is there any compensation given to them?
NEMA as an institution, for us, we do law enforcement. We only remove you from a place you are not supposed to be. We don't remove you from your place. We remove you as an encroacher. If you find a thief in the house stealing your food and you take him to police, it does not become your responsibility also to feed the thief. So we do not remove people from their bona fide land. When you remove people from their bona fide land, the government, through the Ministry of Disaster Preparedness and Relief, they do resettlement, but they also offer relief. But for us, we go to remove encroachers only, illegal occupants, trespassers. So when we remove you, you must find your way. And we are coming. We want to warn people Every time I'm passing on the express, Entebbe Express, I see pockets, even in this Kajansi area. I see pockets of people pushing themselves into wetlands. We don't want to fight with you because you are citizens who pay taxes for which we are paid salaries to manage environment. So we don't want to fight with you Ugandans because you are our bosses. The citizens are our bosses. We want you to see it fitting that it is not proper to encroach on a wetland. So you should live peacefully like the president has directed. The president directed people to vacate wetlands, forest reserves, hill areas with gradient above 30 degrees, and then cultivation within 50 meters of the river and 200 meters of lakes. If we find you, we definitely shall enforce the law. But the best thing would have been for people to live voluntarily. Because when we enforce, we are also using the citizens' money. So why should we use your money to chase you away? We could have used that money to do a road, to do a hospital, to improve education service. Why should we use your taxpayers to chase you away when actually you can do the right thing and leave an encroached area? But if they do not, we shall have no choice but to use force and enforce the law. Yeah.
From your talk, you are very few as staff of NEMA.
Yes.
And when I see these people like your staff going to the public, maybe to chase away those people from those gazetted areas, sometimes the public is very hostile.
Yeah, that's why we work with
any culprits like of staff who have been affected?
We quite often, especially noise pollution control. Our inspectors move at night because noise pollution is at night. Quite often the kanyamas, these bouncers of clubs and what have you, they harass our inspectors. We've had situations where they lock them up at night, and then we have to mobilize the police and the army to go for rescue missions. So our staff are faced with all kinds of threats. But this is the nature of our job. It is like a policeman going for an enforcement or a soldier going for an enforcement. There are always threats to their lives, but because they are dedicated to do that role for the nation, it is self-sacrifice, it is patriotism. So we do that despite threats to the lives of our staff. But we always leverage use of security apparatus, the police and the army. You saw us in Rubiji, we had a very smooth partnership. The NEMA, police, and the military. And we had a very successful operation with no bullet shot. There was no bullet that was shot. Nobody was injured. It was a smooth exercise. And that we shall continue to do this, leveraging the police and the army, because we cannot have a NEMA that has more staff than the police or than the army. That's not envisaged in the near future. So we have to leverage existing government, institutional, and personnel that are in existence.
Being one of the most vital ecological and economic resources the country is endowed with, let's aim at preserving our wetlands than encroaching on them unsustainably.